Good morning, gang. My name's Ray. I'm with Team S.T.E.A.M, and it's good to have you along. And I'm here today out behind Flash Industrial Painting, getting ready to get started on this 07. I think it's an 07 Kenworth W900. Now this is the very first of a new series that I'm going to start that will cover everything from metal shaping to fiberglass repair to bodywork to scratching to masking to abrading to many of the decisions you'll make along the way. This series is going to stretch quite a few videos, maybe as many as 10, and it's going to cover quite a few individual topics. So buckle up, because that's what we're going to do with the rest of these. We've got 10 more of these trucks that need to be changed from white and blue to white and blue, but we're going to do it in a way that teaches you something in every single video. Here we go. Good morning. I do have my work cut out for me. Very odd. I was pretty impressed. I'm going to do what I always do on these trucks. And that just happens to be my thing, by the way. This paint job's probably 5-6 years old. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. And here he is leaving. It wasn't quite as fun as I was expecting. And that starts right about now. Okay, now this truck here is going to be a darn good candidate for a bodywork tutorial, because this one, the side has been hailed out. It's got deep dents all over it. The back has got the standard amount of dents you would find on an 07. But it's got a surprise. One of the gnarliest dents I've ever seen in a sleeper in my entire career. I've done sleepers that have been caved in, but look how gnarly that dent is. That thing is at least an inch deep at its deepest point, at least. It's got that light curved in. It might even have this brace right here where those rivets are. It might even have that brace bent. I need to put a string line on there and see, or a straight edge of some sort on there and see, but it might even have that brace bent. And then I'm not exactly 100% sure how, at least at this point, I'm going to get some of that dent back out, because it's not only got that panel caved in, but it's got everything here sucked in. It starts right here, and it's just got a big deep crease. It's pretty deep right here, and it's got this all V'd in right here, 3/4 of an inch or better. But here, I'd venture that right here is 1.25 inches deep. Right here, maybe right here. These are all like 1 inch, and this whole area, it's just got the whole thing sunk in. This thing would use 2 gallons of filler by itself if I left it exactly the way it is. So it doesn't really matter if you're running a Freightliner or a Mack or a Peterbilt or whatever. If you want to know how to do basic body work on a truck that's got some pretty decent dents in it, this is going to be a pretty good video for you to watch. But for now, I'm dodging afternoon rainstorms, trying to get this sandblasting done. Well, okay, gang. It's first thing the next morning. Crew's going to be walking through the door here any second, and we're going to do what we always do on these trucks. We're going to go ahead and we're going to strip everything off of it. Then we're going to wipe everything down with thinner thoroughly. Then we're going to begin masking on it. And I'm going to be helping them tear things apart like normal. And then once we get to the point where we're masking, I'm going to start concentrating on exactly what I'm going to do with this series of dents back here. All right, we're getting some stuff done here. Got most of it taken apart. We got to tear apart part of the dash on both sides to get the wires out, to get the mirrors out, and that's what he's doing. Here, I've got this opened up. I've got my porta power in here. I've got it pushing up against a board on that side and on this side. And I'm not trying to push out this dent with a porta power, because all I'm hitting is the inner skin. All I'm going to be doing is completely trashing the inner panels, shoving on them. There's still this much space between the inner panel and the outer panel. You have to be pushing on a brace, or you have to take that inner panel out, and then you can push it out from the inside. But you can't just push on a panel on the inside of a sleeper and have the outside come out. That only works on braces, or like I said, if you have the inner skin out, which I don't. So why do I have that in there? I only have it in there so I can put a good amount of solid pressure on that panel. So I can put this piece of trampoline pole in there, which is bent on the end and comes out to about here. That way, when I go to use this as a lever and all the force off of this is coming right here, there is something behind that pushing on it. So I'm not detaching and trashing the interior of this sleeper, because it's being held on the inside by the porta power. And so as you can see, once we get this up in the air, so you watch that dent? Oh, see that? Look at that. See that? How it just comes out? And I've got enough out right there that I can actually work on that dent now. I'm not putting a gallon of filler in it. I want to bend it out where this edge of this hole isn't tipped in. Right now, this whole thing is tipped in because this whole panel is V'd in. So I want to try and use leverage off of this and other poles like it to be able to push this out, and you have to overbend it, so you're taking a chance to try and get this overbent and out, and so where it stays out, and get this bent and out where it stays out. And that's going to be very difficult to do considering how much shrinking has gone on here. And so here we are with a straight edge. This is a 4-foot straight edge just to the inside of that brace. And as you can see, this is where I thought it would be bent. And as you can see, it is not. That is excellent news. So I don't have to get in there and brace it and push back out the brace. This is completely straight. As you can see, 100%. It's got a straight edge on it that's 4 foot long. Almost goes all the way from top to bottom, and it is completely straight. Now right over here, where I pushed this out just a second ago, look at that. Now watch. It's pivoting off that. So now we're out about 1/4 of an inch at its furthest out point. And that's what I expected. That's what I said would happen. You have to overbend them, especially something that's been shrunk this much. And you know it's been shrunk because all of these little dents take up their own certain amount of metal. Each one of them takes up its own certain amount of metal, so it shrunk the entire thing in. You want to see how that works sometime? Get a paper towel, set it on a surface, and then trace it with a marker or whatever. Set it on a cardboard surface, trace it with a marker, and then just simply, and on that cardboard surface, go ahead and leave just a single hole in it. A hole as big around as a baseball. Then when you push your finger down in that hole, you can watch all 4 sides of your paper towel that you traced shrink inside of the trace mark. So now you can easily see where it's been traced all the way around it, and the whole thing is shrunk. And the reason it has is because you used up all that material in the middle pushing that dent in. And that's what's happened here. So you think about that, each one of these dents sucks in a certain amount of material. So it has shrunk this in. The only way to get it back is to push as many of them back out as I can, but also really push it out. So as you can see, I've over pushed it. I'm a 1/4 inch too far out right there, and I did that on purpose. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reinstall that piece of conduit in here, put some back pressure, not trying to bend it, I'm just putting back pressure. Then I'm gonna come through here with a shrinking hammer, and I'm going to just annihilate this with the shrinking hammer. This is just gonna be a mess. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to knock the 1/4 inch in, of course, but I also just wanna harden it. And aluminum and steel, high carbon and low carbon, they all do that. When you bend them, a metallurgic process takes place that hardens them. And so that's why if you fold a piece of aluminum in half, you don't even have to kink it, just fold it in half. And then straighten it out, you'll always have a wave in it. You'll never get it 100% straight again. And it's the same way with like even a dollar bill. You wrinkle it all up and you straighten it out. That's not metallurgy, that's a different process, but it is similar, and it gets harder. And that's what happens with steel and aluminum both. So when I come through here and I shrink this and I beat the living heck out of it with a shrinking hammer, that's actually gonna harden it. So when I go to put bodywork over all this and I start sanding on it and pushing on it and sanding on it and pushing on it, and the bodywork cures and heats up, so now we got heat as another ingredient. When all that happens, this doesn't all of a sudden pop back in because it's hardened and it's in place. And that's the procedure. Push it out too far when you need to, which is a lot, and then use a shrinking hammer and get it all beat back to where it's flat. And then it should be, if you've done your work right, rigid and hard enough in the whole area that it'll never cave back in again. And I've got an actual shrinking hammer. That's what they look like. That's an auto body shrinking hammer. This is a welding slag hammer. You can pick these up from any hardware store. So if you don't have a shrinking hammer, go get a slag hammer. I used a slag hammer for 18 years. So I mean, that's all I used for the first 2/3 of my career. So yeah, get yourself a slag hammer if you don't have a shrinking hammer. It does the same thing. Okay, now I've got some beading done on this thing, and here's what we've done. This was caved in, oh, 1.25 inches maybe before. Now we're putting the straight edge on it. You can see it's straight all the way to here. Now we're about 1/8 of an inch in here, maybe 1/4 of an inch here, maybe. And then we're back to straight again. Well, okay, boys got everything all torn off of it. They got all the thinner work done, 100% done. Big B is here. Hey, buddy. He's been quality supervisor. Kevin's still around, but he doesn't come in the shop nearly as often as Big B and a couple of the other ones do during the summer. So Big B's kind of taken over, and he's doing the quality inspection. And at this point, I've got this pulled back out. It went from 1.25 inches in to just 1/4 inch in. So now that is indented only 1/4 of an inch instead of 1.25 inches. Then I went ahead and pulled all these. I didn't pull them, I cut them, ground them off. All these rivets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rivets, including into this row, because all of this is going to be encompassed in bodywork. So I'll just replace those rivets when the bodywork's all done. It's in wet sanding primer. The wet sanding primer has been sanded. It's all flat, ready for regular epoxy. That's when I'll go ahead and put all those rivets back in and get them scratched. Well, hey, Big B. What are you doing, buddy? What a good boy. Yeah, he's a good boy. What would we do without Big B? And so I'll go ahead and set the camera up, get this all sanded, get all these individual deep dents and dings all scratched, get everything all abraded and ready, and then go ahead and lay the first layer of bodywork on her. Since this is the worst part of the whole entire truck by a dam site, I'm gonna go ahead and get it taken care of first, because I believe a person should eat Brussels sprouts, but I usually just eat them first. Just get them off my plate, get them out of the way. So you've done the right thing, but you got it out of the way. And that's the way the biggest, nastiest dents in fiberglass are for me. They're my Brussels sprouts. I need to do them, but I just get them out of the way so I can enjoy the rest of the thing. Okay, now I'm just getting ready to mix up some mud here, and I want to show you, this is the mud I typically use. That's not the best mud in the world. That's just same company. But I don't have company loyalty. It just kind of ended up this way. Here's the glazing I used to use and still use. I have 2 of these. They're brand new. They're just backup. In case I run out of the other, I've got plenty of glazing. But I keep 3 or more of these spare on hand. And I keep 3 or more of these spare on hand. As you can see right here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them in there. And again, it's not because it's the best filler in the world. I wouldn't know what the best is. It just works as good as the best, and it's about 1/4 of the price. If you want to give $85 for a gallon of filler, go right ahead. But this is $30 roughly, and it does just as good a job. That's why I use it. And what I use as a material to put the filler on to mix it up is just cardboard. You see, these are just old boxes that I just cut up into specific pieces, and then bigger pieces right here. I mean, these big guys over here, that's what I'm going to use for this big body work. There's no sense in trying to absolutely fill this border to border, spilling that crap everywhere, pushing it over the sides, messing with it just so I can go put down a 1/4 of what I need. So for big jobs like this, when I'm going to lay out big body work, I use bigger cardboard. And then when you go to spread out your mud, what I use is a 3-inch spreader. And you can buy these in any size. You can buy 4, 5, 6-inch spreaders, but I got 3. I run predominantly just 3-inch spreaders. And once you have that laid out, and you see it's a big pile, it's 1.25 inches thick, big around as a cantaloupe. That's going to be a good amount. But as you can see right here on the can, look what they tell you to do with the hardener. Just run a line right over the middle of it. Yeah, but that's about a 3-inch daub right there. This, way bigger. You run one line across there, and you are not going to have nearly enough hardener. What it'll do is it will eventually harden, but it won't harden into real filler. It'll only half harden. Now you've got something on there that isn't doing what it was designed to do. Now you've just got some chemicals on there that haven't been fully reactive. So what you need to do at that point is dig it all out of there and start over. I'm not saying over harden everything, especially in the summertime, because in the summertime, if you add as much hardener to your mix as you do in the wintertime, it's gonna harden before you can get even a third of it on the truck. It will harden and you will be wasting so much material. Yeah, that stuff's 30 bucks a gallon, but once you've wasted a full gallon of it screwing around, mixing up way too much and not even getting it on the project, you realize you are throwing money away. So it's important to not just run a line across a big one. That works for small ones. Piles this big around. Piles twice that size and really thick like that, you know, you want to run a zigzag across it or an X across it, something like that, about twice as much. But again, if you use too much, you're not gonna have time to spread it out. You do need time to spread it out, but if you go the other way with it and you think to yourself, well, I'll just add a drop of hardener and that'll buy me all the time in the world to spread it out. It will, but then it'll never get hard like it needs to. You still need your products to be quality. And if you rob them of their ability to provide quality, then you've gone wrong from the very first step. And so it becomes important once we get that mud mixed up to really get to spreading. So sometimes before I even put my hardener on the mud, I come up with a game plan. I've got a game plan. I've got my ladders in place. I got everything in place I'm going to need. I got everything figured out the way I need it, because all you have time for here is spreading mud. And if you spread it out super fast and sloppy, well, then you're wasting mud because you're getting it on way too thick in spots, and you're going to waste your entire afternoon and a bunch of sandpaper hacking all that shit back off there. So it's important to try and spread it as close to what you need, and maybe a little over, because a little over is better than a little under, to begin with. So you have to be thoughtful and you have to be fast. Okay, well, as you saw, I had a big pile of mud and I got it all spread out here and I got it all sanded. I couldn't break away and do anything with the camera because you just don't have the time. In this kind of heat, by the time I get my sandpaper ready and my sanding blocks ready, this is ready to sand. You can't just go to lunch. You come back, that thing is going to be as hard as granite and you're going to be scratching away at it all afternoon. It's 10 times more work than it needs to be. Sand your mud when your mud is soft. Not tacky, not sticky, soft. There's just as soon as it loses its tackiness, but it's not set up yet 100%. Get on it, get your big sanding done. That's the time to do it. And what I've done, as you can see, here's one of my sanding blocks. I have a number of them. This one hasn't been used yet. This is fresh 40 grit. Same with this. And that's the only two blocks I'm going to be using basically for the entire back. If I have a little dent or something in between two of these rivets, then I have smaller blocks for that. But outside of that, I'm going to be using these two blocks for basically everything back here. And I use them for all my big body work. I really don't get any bigger a block than that. A foot long is enough to do pretty much everything you got to do if you know what you're doing. So as you can see, I knocked it flat. And you can tell by the dark spots. It's like this here, this is flat. This is done. Basically, this is done. But right next to it, it's a little, that's not done. These are little dents. Right here, look at that. None of that's done. That's not done. And so I'll go ahead and I'll put a second coat on and I'll sand it flat. And that'll get it darn close. There might still be some stuff in here maybe, but that'll get it darn close. And then the third coat, that's when I'm gonna go ahead and finish sanding and scratching and incorporate the other dings and dents in this panel. And by this panel, I mean from this line of rivets to this line of rivets. I refer to them as panels, but as you can see, this is all one panel. So what I mean is from this line of rivets to this line of rivets, this foot long to 18 inch, I've made it about 18 inch because I've removed some of the rivets. This whole space here is gonna get done first. And then once the body work is done from top to bottom in that entire space, that entire panel, then I'll go ahead and move on, sand and scratch the next panel, get the body work going on it. Well, I got out of here yesterday afternoon. I had some other stuff I had to do with part of the day. So here I am first thing the next morning. Gonna get going on this again. Boys are gonna be in here any minute. And I'm gonna try and get this body work banged out here today. right, as you see here, we've got this initial body work done on this panel. And it took quite a few coats and took quite a bit of doing. But I got the hole cut back out, got all my 3 little holes put back in there. They're gonna get partially plugged again when I go to glaze this, but then I'll just drill them out again, no big deal. But now I got this done, now I can go ahead, finish removing those reflective stickers. All I got was the hard plastic off the outside. I didn't get the sticky part off yet. I gotta get all those off and then just start prepping these one panel at a time like I always do. Prep this panel or that panel and get all the body work done and move to the next one, however it turns out. And so now I've got the initial bodywork done here on the back. This is all completed as it needs to be with the initial bodywork. Now I'm gonna go ahead and sand everything down, or have the boys sand everything down, sand down all these edges out and around all the bodywork that don't need to be there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and apply glazing. And as you can see, this is not the end of the dents. We'll try and show you this. I don't know how well it's gonna translate, but the side of this truck is so badly hailed out, so badly, and the dents are so deep that they're basically as deep as the dents on the back were. I mean, the side of the truck looks like the back of the truck. Look at that. And the door, this is just a mess. This is just solid dents. This all needs filled in. Same with this. This basically 100% needs filled in. Okay, now before I finish up the back of this in glazing, as you can see, all I have left is this panel. But in truth, I still have that green dot and that green dot. My goal is not to cover up all the green or the blue or whatever you want to call it. That's not my goal. But I could tell when I ran my hand over it that those two are still a little bit shallow. They need another layer of glazing, almost the size of like a dinner plate, all the way around them, sand them down again, see where we're at. And over here on this side, if you paid attention to the high-speed footage, which is hard to pay attention to, I actually went over this 3 times with glazing, at least, maybe more. And normally I don't do that. Normally what I try to do is get all the initial body work done, go over it with glazing, board it all down by hand with a block, get it all knocked down by hand, and then go ahead and prime it on heavy body work. This time you saw me do 3 layers of glazing or more right here just in this section. Well, that's because I made a mistake, and that happens. That happens all the time in auto body. I thought I had my initial body work in there deep enough, and I didn't. So then I put a responsible amount of glazing on it, realized I didn't, put another responsible amount of glazing on it thinking that would fix it, and it didn't. So then I put an even heavier amount. So really, when you think that glazing costs as much per tube, which is a quart, as filler does per gallon, which is about 3/4 of a gallon. They never come full. They're always about 3/4 of a gallon. Then you realize that those two things are the same price. If you're using as much glazing as you're using filler, you are throwing money at your project. You don't need to be. Glazing isn't for that. Glazing isn't for what you just saw me do. What you saw me do is a bit of a no-no. But sometimes you get sucked in. Sometimes you think you have it right and it turns out you don't. You think that this coat's going to get it right and it doesn't. So you think that this coat for sure is going to get it right and it doesn't. You get sucked in like that. I've been doing this for, well, the first body work I did was over 30 years ago. So, I mean, if you're doing your body work and you sand it down and it still doesn't feel right, and by the way, don't go over it with a bare hand. Go over it with a towel or a gloved hand. The texture that you feel on your hand will screw with your senses and you won't be able to feel the dips and the highs and the lows hardly at all. So make sure you have a gloved hand or just a paper towel on your hand when you're feeling up your work. And then when you're all done feeling it and you thought you had it right and you come out the next morning and you go to feel it and realize you didn't, don't get too frustrated. That happens to us 30-year veterans all the time. What separates my work from all the shitty work out there is the fact that I noticed it and I go over it until it's right. Even if it's 25 times, I go over it until it's right. That's the difference between me and a lot of other shops. It isn't that I nail it the first try. It isn't that I've got that smooth hand that just can't get it wrong. No, I get it wrong all the time, but I stick with it until it's right. Now that this is pretty much ready to go, I've got it to where it's all but ready for primer. Now I'm going to go ahead and focus on this side. And again, I mean, when you look at this side, and what makes working on one of these tricky is that you have to learn where to start and stop because of all the rivets. Because see all these lines in the gloss? Look at them all. And then look down here. Look at all the creases at the tops of all these rivets. See those creases? When you look at it from back a little ways, I don't know how well this translates, but those creases run a quarter of the way up the door. And then beneath them, same thing. Look how wrinkly that looks. There's a few dings, but most of that's just rivets. And you can't get those out. I mean, if you made it your goal to get all those ripples out, all you're going to do is smooth over the ripples while you can. And then once it reaches the actual rivet, there's going to be a line there. There's going to be a line with about an 1/8 inch drop off. It's just going to look like a line. there's nothing you can do about it. The rivets set in further in a lot of spots than the metal does. And there's nothing you can do about that. So taking care of those dents while at the same time preserving those natural creases, because if they look disturbed, they'll catch the eye. If they look natural, they won't. And so it becomes important to try and do the body work and try and take care of the dents. And I mean, look, there's a dent right there, right at the end of my finger. See that? Now I need to take care of that dent without affecting any of these divots. Same with this. I need to take care of that dent without affecting any of the divots around it. There's a dent right there. I need to try and do something about that dent without affecting any of these divots around it. And the door beneath these is even worse. Both of these doors are just destroyed. I mean, they are absolutely just a mess. Down underneath the handle, see all that? Both of those sleeper doors need done from top to bottom, basically. And this entire side basically needs done from top to bottom. And that's where we begin to introduce different sizes and types of sanding blocks. You know, I've shown you the ones that I use quite a few times. This is my most popular one. But when you get into tight spots like that, those are just too big. And here we've got an assortment, and here's some of these blocks. And these are flexible. These are flexible blocks, but they are still pretty stiff. They're good to work with because of that. And here's a shorter version of the big block that I use. These guys are good for getting into smaller spots. This is actually one big long block, but I cut it into different sections. So I had two of these, and I cut one of them into thirds, and I cut one of them in half. Here's one of them that I cut in half. Just because I didn't need a big long block. But these little guys like this, I mean, that's what I use to get down in between those rivets. And then I've got this to get into round corners. And I've got this to get into different shapes. And that's really what you need. You need an assortment of blocks to be able to take care of the different challenges that some of these semis have. And to be able to get down between the rivets is definitely a challenge. So here I'm going to show you a little bit of a difference about kind of what you're looking for. You can run your hand over these things and you can start to feel whether or not you've actually fixed the dent. And another way to tell just at a glance is this. See this one right here? Look how fuzzy that edge is. Look how fuzzy and kind of undefined that edge is once you get close. Look at that. Then look just above it. See how much sharper that edge is? See how much sharper those are? How much more defined those are compared to how fuzzy that one is? That fuzziness indicates to me we're pretty level. That sharpness indicates to me that we're still in. And I probably could have fixed it first try. I had plenty of filler on there, but you don't ever really know. All you're trying to do is hack that filler off of there with your 40 grit or whatever you're using on your board until it's gone around the dent. You can't have a bunch of it around the dent. That means you haven't completed your mission. So once you get all that off, sometimes often, you've actually gone a hair too far. You've actually pushed it in just a little bit and left a little bit of a divot. Pretty common. But to be able to identify it at a glance makes it a little simpler. I know that this one, and this one, and these ones all need fixed. They're all sharp. This one here doesn't. I can tell, and my hand tells the same story. That feels level, that feels dished in. So that's one quick way of telling if your or somebody else's bodywork is going to show up in the gloss or not. And now after the second coat, we'll go ahead and have another look at it. As you can see, look how much more fuzzy that is. This is the one that was before that we never did fix because we didn't need to. See how fuzzy, how much more fuzzy that edge is? How much more fuzzy that edge is? Now look at that one. That one still needs some work. You can tell at a glance. Look at these ones above it. Now, just reaching a fuzzy state, that's not enough. You might have it built up. It might be built up a little bit too much. You still have to have a gloved or covered hand and run it over it to see if it feels flat enough. Sometimes if you don't trust it, put a straight edge on it. But, so fuzzy isn't, if you achieve that, that doesn't mean that you've achieved flatness at all. I just know that if you go too far, it gets sharp. And since I've already run my hand over it, I already know that this stuff's all straight, except for this guy. I'll go ahead and fix that one, and then this whole panel will be done. Be ready for glazing. And now here's a few other things we need to address. I'm having trouble seeing the dents and dings that easily on this panel. So what I did was I just got down here, looked upwards, used the reflection from the skylights, and then you can more easily see them. So when I saw them from there, I just marked them all with a permanent marker. Now bear in mind, permanent marker will come right through primer and right through everything, but since I marked the bottom of the dents and I'm going to sand it out anyway, it doesn't really matter. So as you can see, you can use permanent marker to, or any kind of thing like that. You can use a little dab of tape just to mark the dents so you can come hit them head on and you don't have to re-find them every time. And then another thing I wanted to cover was this right here. See that little dent right in between those rivets? And we have got dents in just really tight spots right next to rivets. Right next to rivets. This truck's got a lot of them for some reason. This one right here, how do you spread something like that? Well, I've got 3-inch spreaders and I've showed you that. Well, what I did was I just took one of them, this has happened many times over the years, cut it into sections, see? And you just cut them into however wide you think you need. And I just keep a bunch of these sizes around. And I use this most narrow one to spread bodywork in there and in spots like that. And then I sand it with this small block. You can use a number of small blocks, but I don't use a big block for sanding stuff like that. You're never going to get it sanded even. That's how you deal with those dents that are in really tight spots. All right, so as you can see, I got some glazing down this panel. And the reason I did glazing instead of bodywork to begin with is because these were just little tiny dings. You can fill little tiny dings with glazing. And it's at this point I feel like I need to get you a little more acquainted with one of the more unfortunate aspects of what I would consider larger scale auto body projects. And that is this. This at this point seems done. We got good fuzzy edges around there. This dent feels flat. This dent feels flat. This dent feels flat. So you'd think we're ready for glazing, but experience has taught me that there's a bigger picture here. When you're dealing with something that's been hailed out, if you're dealing with something that just has a dent in it, yeah, when it's flat, it's flat. But if you're dealing with something that has multiple big dents in it because of hail, the chances are that those dents have shrunk up that surface. They have actually shrunk that surface and oftentimes indented the entire surface. So while you might have a 4-foot stretch that has 25 dents in it, those 25 deep dents have actually moved the entire surface in a little bit. So that's something you got to watch for. Even though this feels flat and this one here feels flat, all together, the whole thing is still sunk in. The whole thing is still problematic. And so at this point, and a lot of people would be disappointed to know this, that if you've gone through this much work to get it this flat and you think that you got basically a masterpiece on your hands, and then you go and put gloss on it and realize, whoa, you can still see some waves in it. You can still see some it doesn't look new at all. Well, that's why. The very energy that's been applied to this from having all those big dents that close together has actually warped the entire surface. So to treat all the dents is one thing, and it is the first step. It is the first step. You treat all the dents, you get them to feel flat. Then you run your hand over the whole thing and you really try and use your senses to figure out whether or not that is truly flat. Each dent might be flat, but this whole surface is still warped. So at this point, I need to basically go over the entire surface with another layer of bodywork. That's the only way I'm going to be able to get it. And you can do it with glazing, but as I mentioned, glazing it's as much per quart as the bodywork is per almost gallon. So you don't want to waste a bunch of your glazing on this and go over it 90 times. Glazing doesn't lay out that thick. That's the problem. That's one of the problems. It lays out 1/16 of an inch or maybe 1/8 if you're lucky thick. And it's just not enough to do a lot of stuff like this. And it's not meant to. So again, I'm going to go over all this with bodywork, including this. All those dents are flat, but together they make kind of a warped surface. So now I have to go through and I have to redo the entire thing and go over the entire thing with one big sheet of bodywork. Then it'll be flat. Like this dent right here, I don't have to do that here. That's a single dent. It's done. It feels flat. It is flat. These, no. This is all warped now. So now I got to put a bunch of bodywork on it, sand that flat, then I'll have a surface I can go ahead and glaze. right, gang. Now that we've gone over this entire thing again, I know it might seem daunting, and that's because what I would consider large scale body work is daunting. Even small scale body work, it's not hard to fail, and it's not easy to win. I mean, that's life. That's life for you. You make your choices. So if you want to win, you want this to look as good as you possibly can, you want it to look as close to new as you possibly can, you got to go through the steps. There's really no shortcut. I mean, really, the only thing you're going to get that resembles shortcuts that I'm aware of is the way I do it. The way I get straight down to business. I use really aggressive sandpaper, 40 grit, and I start carving on it just after the point that it's tacky. Just after there's that sweet spot in there. And you got to lay out a small enough amount to be able to try and get it all while it's still in that state. And that will get it as flat as you can get it. And that saves you the most time and the most elbow grease and the most materials, the most sandpaper. So really what I'm showing you technically is a shortcut. But if you try and shortcut it any further than that, your results are going to show. So now that we've gone over this many times, and as you can see, I mean, look, we've basically filled in between. Now, just because you've done this, just because you've gotten it this far, you got to be careful because it's easy to leave it mounded up. You know, 4 out of 5 times that I see body work in somebody else's paint, just like a couple videos ago when I did that 2001 Kenworth, when on the hood, I saw their body work around that corner of that fender. That's almost always the case. 4 out of 5 times, maybe 9 out of 10 times that I see body work in somebody else's stuff, it's because it's mounded up. Not ground down too far, mounded up. So I guess that's really what you got to watch for. You don't want it to be dipped in, but putting way too much on there is not the solution. So just because you can no longer feel a dent doesn't mean it's not mounded up. You got to be very careful and very honest with yourself. Use a covered or gloved hand, and sometimes don't even look at it. Just rub it while you're not even looking at it. Really engage your senses. Sometimes that's the best way to tell, or just get out a straight edge, an 18 inch or 24 inch or even a 36 inch if you need it, straight edge, and put it on there and really have a good look at it. And that's another way of telling. But now that we've done all this, you'd think, well, all right, well, at least we took the time, we did it right. I mean, the only way to do this right is to replace the truck with a new truck. The next tier down of right is to replace the sleeper with a better sleeper. The next tier down of right is to reskin the sleeper. Now you've done it right? And by the time you get your truck home from the shop, you've already have your first 2 or 3 dings in the back, because that's the way that semis work. So the very next tier of doing it right is to get somebody like me that comes in here and does the body work correctly and sends it out the door looking new. So it's far from new, but it looks new and it's done correctly. And that around here is how we do it right. So if you want to do it right and you get this far and you think, good, well, now that I've taken the time and I had the patience to do it right, I can go ahead and get some primer on it. No, now we have to go over all this again. You want to do it right, now we got to glaze it. So now we got to put you have your choice here. You can put a super thin layer of glazing on it just to fill the pinholes if you're that confident in your work. Or you can put a thicker layer, 1/16 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch of glazing on it and board the whole thing down again, just like it's body work, just like you did with the body work, but with a 80 or 100 grit on the thing and not 40 grit. And board the whole thing down again while it's still set up, but not 100% cured out, much like the body work. You got to find that sweet spot to make it go the quickest. And do the best cutting on it, the most accurate cutting on it. If it's rock hard, it's going to be hard to cut it down to where it's flat. It's always going to be mounded or dished, or you really don't want to do too much hacking on super hard body work. So you put your glazing on now, hack it all down with a board with probably 80 grit on it, and that's how you do it right. Now you're ready for primer. So as you can see, this is why not that many people do this for a living, and that's why a lot of the ones that do don't get it right. And at this point, now we're finally ready to go ahead and turn the boys loose and have them go ahead and scratch and sand all the remaining spots that are glossy. We didn't want to do that in advance. That'll just confuse where the bodywork is. In fact, if you scratch where the bodywork is, it'll flat out hide it. And so that's why I only sand where the bodywork is. I just look for the dull spots and I put my filler on there. I put my glazing on there. That keeps things from being confusing. But if the boys have gone out in front of me and scratched a bunch of stuff, then it takes a minute. You got to look for an extra minute to see what's been scratched because it's been scratched and what's been scratched because it needs to be prepped for bodywork. And that few seconds on each little spot is going to cost you. Those extra seconds of discernment is going to cost you. Now you got $20 worth of stuff on your board that is now set up and can't go on the project because you spent so much time trying to figure out what's dull because your boys scratched it or what's dull because you scratched it for the sake of bodywork. All right, so now that we're done with the driver's side bodywork, now we're over here on the passenger side, and this side hasn't been hailed out, but it's got its share of problems for sure. A very, very common thing on almost all sleeper trucks is over time, drivers or even owners, but more often than not drivers, will just shove these doors closed, palm them as hard as they can, and that dents them. Over time, that just dents them, caves them in even sometimes. I mean, one time I painted a W900 for a guy that's, 500 miles from here or something, and he wanted all sorts of things done to it. Wanted the horn shaved and this done and that, all kinds of custom stuff, and we did it. This was years and years ago. And we turned that truck in from a beat up old ranch truck into a really slick looking black Kenworth. When we showed up to get it, I was shocked because he, right in front of me, he opened up his sleeper door from the inside. He popped it open and he loaded some stuff in it. And then he went to close it and he palmed that door and he shoved it and shoved it and shoved. The whole truck was rocking. And he was saying, this door doesn't like to close very well. And so he really shoved, and I was standing there just flabbergasted. It's like, man, you're going to dent that door on that truck I just painted. I didn't even bother to look to see if he dented it because I was so sure he did. And he was the owner. So, I mean, to each his own, but damn. But anyway, so that's what I'm looking for. And let's see if we can come up with it here. It's kind of difficult to get a look at the whole thing with this camera, but see that? Now what you're looking for is from here all the way down is dented in. And it's actually created a crease. See that crease? This crease right here. This happens all the time on sleeper doors and on truck doors. From people palming them and pushing them closed. After a while, it just creates this crease right at the brace. And so it's dented in from here all the way to here. And if I were to make a shape out of it, it probably is dented about like this, clear out into this corner. This whole corner is dented in. So now that you know that, let's have another look and you can see. You can see the individual dents in the big dent. And that's what I was covering on that other side. I can go through and fix each of those individual dents, but I haven't fixed the big sway that's in it. And oftentimes that's what happens when you get a bunch of little dents or a bunch of manipulation that causes little dents. Oftentimes that causes a much bigger overlying problem, which is warping. And that's what's happened here. Down here, look at those dents. I mean, there's no other hail dents on this side, so those aren't hail. That's from somebody, what, karate kicking the door closed? It's no wonder that owners get so mad at drivers sometimes. And so that'll be the goal here today, is to go ahead and identify all the dents and dings on this side, get the bodywork done, get the glazing done, get it ready for primer. And now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start the body work on the hood. What I'm gonna do is go ahead and get these sanded down, and these are always mounded. And so I'll get these sanded flat. All three on each side. The fiberglass has been done on the backside, so I'll go ahead and get those sanded down, get that body work done while I'm at it. Look these over, see if they need any more body work. That way I can get all my body work, all my glazing done here this morning sometime, so I can spend the rest of my afternoon basically scratching and sanding and sanding and scratching. But before I do any of that, I need to break away for a minute. I had a customer show up this morning. They got a hold of me a few days ago. Going to be in town today, so he's wondering if he could drop some stuff off, and I didn't know until this morning that he was only going to be in town for a short while, so I need to get this stuff done, I guess, while he's here. And what we've got here is just some bumper mounts to an old Packard, and just some of the hardware that goes with that. So what I'll do is I'll take these outside. They already did their work on the outside, but they were unable to do anything with the inside, so I'll go ahead and go out and fire up the sandblaster, get all that stuff sandblasted before they come back to get it here in an hour or two. Get that out of the way so I can get on with my project. All right, well, Big B and I are here hanging out, and I just finished up that sandblasting outside, and I just got cleaned up from it because I had to use used sand, and that stuff gets everywhere. So when you're done, you got to get all cleaned up. As you can see, and there was a bunch of them. Kept all the stuff separate and got it all sandblasted. And now I'm going to go ahead and come back up here to the front and get this fiberglass all prepped so I can go ahead and get the last of the body work on this truck. All right, I got these prepped now. As you can see, got them all ground down. Got the area around them all sanded, both sides. Down here I sanded the clear coat all the way back because you don't want to try to attach body work to faulty clear coat. Over here, the clear coat is going to need to be peeled back as well, but I'm not doing body work over there. I'm just doing body work here. Okay, well, as I'm going along here, I went ahead and I saw a few little cracks up here, little stress cracks, so I ran my hand over it. And what I found was some really badly done amateur body work. And I'm going to have to clean that out and see what they've done and take care of that as we go along here today to try and get primer on this guy. Well, okay, gang. Looks like we got everything ready. All the body work's been done. All the glazing's been done. All the scratching that is pertinent to what I'm priming today has been done. All the sanding that is pertinent to what I'll be priming today is done. And at this point, I'm 100% ready to go ahead and get some high build epoxy primer on. I already have it mixed up. I'm going to go ahead and get that done right now. Well, good morning, gang. Here it is first thing the next morning, and I've already come in and looked this over, and of course there's pinholes, and of course there's cracks. That's part of the reason you prime is to be able to identify that stuff. And as you can see, there was a little crack here. This was just a superficial crack in the gel coat. Some pinholes in that bodywork. A few more pinholes. See what pinholes look like when you fill them? Just little chips, little tiny little chips. Same with over here. This is super typical. Some of them are far more prolific than this. Some of them I get a lot more of this glazing on, but this is pretty average. You see just little chips. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and sand all that glazing down, sand the fenders down, get them in epoxy primer of a very similar tone to what's already there, and then I'm going to go ahead and get the blue on here today too. Well, all right, gang. It's a brand new day, new list of things to do. Chief among which I believe is probably to get these fenders separated first thing. Boys are going to come through the door here any minute, so I got to have that done. I'm going to go ahead and get some vinyl tape, separate out these fenders, so the boys can go ahead and get those masked up while I'm doing a few other chores. And then later on today, after that's done, we're going to go ahead and finish sanding and scratching and scratching and sanding. I'm going to get all this body work, or all this high build epoxy primer sanded. We're going to get everything 100% ready to go. I doubt I'll have enough time by the end of the day to get everything shot, but I do want to get at least the chassis in black primer. And if I have enough time and will to keep going, I'll go ahead and get the truck in white primer as well. We're getting her all sanded. As you can see, the boys got the fenders masked up. I had to leave. I had to run town this morning. I got back here not too long ago. Now they're busy sanding and scratching. I've already got all the little pinholes filled in. Little scratches and marks filled in. Everything filled in that needs to be. Got all my holes drilled for all the rivets that I had to remove just to do this work. Now I'm going to go ahead. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and get my sander out, get all my safety gear on, and go ahead and get all of this high build epoxy primer sanded down while the boys are getting the rest of the truck ready to go. Well, okay, at this point we've crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's. Everything is done, everything's ready, sanded, scratched, blown off, ready to go. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and mix up some primer, get the cab, hood, and sleeper in white, and get this chassis in black. Well, okay, gang, this guy had plenty of time to sit. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix up some white paint, get the cab, sleeper, and hood painted in white. Then I'm going to mix up some black paint, get the chassis shot in black, and then I'm going to get out of here for the day. Good morning, gang. Well, as you saw yesterday, I got all the coating shot on this that it needed on the truck and the chassis both. And now here this morning, we're going to go ahead and, like I always do, I'm going to go ahead and unmask these fenders first and see if there's any deal breakers. And if there isn't any deal breakers, the boys are going to come in. We're going to go ahead and get the rest of this unmasked, and I'll put back together here this morning. Okay, well, pretty happy with that. So the boys are going to come through the door here about any minute, and we're going to go ahead and start stacking up some parts, get this unmasked, get it all put back together here this morning. Well, okay, gang. Now that this beast is all put together, let's go ahead and walk around it. Have us a look. All right, here we have an 07 Kenworth W900. When this guy showed up, had a little bit of damage inside of the hood, not too bad. It had the mirrors on it that needed to be taken off and have the holes plugged up and smoothed over. And this truck had dings in the driver's side door. This sleeper door was dented in a little bit in a few spots. This sleeper door was dented in from there to there, this whole section. And as you can see, there's no indicator that there was ever a dent in it. Same with down here. No indicator there was ever dents in that door. However, the mother of all dents was right back here. And as you can see, we'll get the light on it. There is, you can see the reflection of the ceiling or the skylights there. And as you can see, there is no hint whatsoever that that dent was ever there. And before, when I ran the lights across it, as you can see, this was absolutely smashed in to the point where I thought maybe the main brace itself was bent. And now, again, we'll run the reflection across it. You can see no indication that that was ever dented. It looks basically brand new. I only say basically because I put different rivets in it, so it gives it a slightly different look. But I mean, to a person just walking by it, they would never know this truck was dented at all. This side, same thing. And the whole back was all dented up like these trucks get. It was no picnic, but that side right there was really bad. And there's no indicator that it was ever dented anywhere on the back of the truck. 100% clean. Now this side here was hailed out badly. And again, there's no indicator that it was ever hailed out. There's no indicator whatsoever that it had dents, and some of them which were 1/4 and a 1/2 inch deep on this side. And it was covered in them. Down here, same thing. You can see no indication whatsoever that this was basically bashed in. Even there was, I don't know how many, I'd have to go back in the video and look, but there was a number of dents just on this corner and a number of them on this corner. And this whole section here was nothing but giant dents. This was all basically caved in. And as you can tell, there really isn't any indicator that it was ever dented at all. Driver's door had a few little dings in it. It wasn't too bad. And the chassis was in pretty darn bad shape. Went ahead and sandblasted it. A couple coats of epoxy primer, a couple coats of paint. Got all the details. I wouldn't say the chassis looks brand new because you can always see where the old rust was, because it was cancer. And unless you do body work over it, you're always going to see that that's there. But it's more solid than it was when it was brand new. It's going to last longer than it did when it was brand new. It's going to repel water and corrosion better than it ever has been able to. Even when it left the factory, it won't be able to repel corrosion the way it can now. And now this guy's ready to join the rest of the trucks that these guys are sending to the auction. And we still have, about 9 more of them left or something like that we got to do. And again, I'm going to be using those trucks as a platform to go ahead and do instructional videos, much like this one, on different facets of the truck auto body business. So if you're interested in checking out some of the more intimate details of the truck auto body business, those will be good videos to catch. Hey, if you like this video, you should take the time to hit the like button. It's going to help me grow my channel. And if you don't like the video, then don't. Definitely don't. I only want people to hit the like button that like the video. I only want people to subscribe that are interested in subscribing. I'm not one of these YouTubers that's going to sit there and hammer on you to smash the subscribe button. You don't want to subscribe? Don't. You are an adult, and I want you to act like one. So definitely no pressure here. Only like it if you like it. Only subscribe if you're interested in that. But if you are interested in checking out a little bit more of what goes on around here, check us out at Facebook at Flash Industrial Painting. And if you want to see more videos like this one, or domestic auto body, or gardening, or art, or dirt moving, or carpentry, or any of the many things we do around here, you might as well go ahead and hit the subscribe button while you're at it, because, you know, we always got something going on. We'll see you guys around.